ready to see me? You told them?
Of course I told them.
I haven't given an answer yet.
Say yes.
But I...
Say yes.
Say yes.
Say yes.
Say yes. Just say it. Really? Why?
Because we know you, and knowing you, we'd all follow you anywhere. Saru made the right choice.
Welcome, everybody, to Deep Space Pride, a gay Star Trek podcast. My name is Mike. I am one of your hosts, and with me is my co-host, Johnson. Johnson, how are you doing today?
I think I'm doing okay, given the circumstances. Yeah, I'm doing all right.
A lot's happened and happening. Today was a interesting day for you.
Interesting day, yes, for our fans who are listening. Today was my dad's funeral service, so I buried my father. I guess that's an update since the last time we had a podcast episode. Yes, so my dad passed away a week and a half ago. It wasn't too unexpected. We kind of saw it coming. There was some deliberation about it, but just due to scheduling, we didn't bury him until a week and a half later. And I know we're not dropping by Deanna's office right this second, but I'll just go ahead and share that yeah, I mean, you know, like I was a little sad about it, but at the same time, he was very old. He was 96, so it wasn't like he died in his prime. You know, it's still, you know, death is still a sad thing, but at the end of the day, he lived a very full life. So yeah, I think that if anything, I was very cold because the funeral was outdoors. It was at the cemetery. It was like, I was very cold. I had to pee. There were all the bodily function issues, you know. So I was just kind of like, let's get those over with. There were a few speakers. I didn't say anything, but my mom decided to say something in the last minute. And I was like, oh my God, this is like going to lengthen the ceremony. So she went on. I was like, oh God. But yeah, then it was over. And then I had to say hi to all the people that I haven't seen in like 20 years. And they were like, do you remember me? I'm like, absolutely not. I do not remember you because it's been 20 years since I've seen you and we're all older now. And I don't know who you are. And you're wearing a mask. That doesn't help anything. So there was some, you know, greetings, like condolences, etc. But it was fine. It was fine. So that was my day.
Yeah. And, you know, obviously, you know, we've been here for you and you've been here for us because Dennis's mom passed away earlier this month. So it's been a dramatic month.
It has been a lot,
to say the least. But
hey, the guy that was driving the hearse was very cute. So yeah, I sent you guys photos. I took these like surreptitious pictures. It's probably like not exactly appropriate, but I was like, ooh, he's very attractive, but he was also like probably 25 and he was a smoker, which is a total deal breaker.
Right.
So
yeah,
that was too bad. But I sent his photo around to people.
You did, yes.
I did. Like at the cemetery. It was like him, a nice photo of him, and like all these tombstones. So, you know, very sexy setting.
Yes.
You know?
Well, I mean, given that, you know, tombstones and coffins and skeletons are your favorite emojis, it seems appropriate. So yeah,
appropriate.
But yeah, so it's been an interesting day for you.
I know. Well, it's been an interesting couple weeks. Really.
Couple weeks, really. Yeah,
a lot happening.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, and we can talk to Deanna later if we want to a little bit, but that was just a brief update.
Brief life update.
Yeah. So shall we spill some Trek on Discovery?
Yeah, let's get into it.
The scarcity of dilithium was caused in part by the sheer size of the Federation. To solve that problem, it stretched member worlds beyond capacity and comfort. In its desire to serve the many, the Federation ignored the needs of the few.
So let's get into spilling the Trek on Unification Part 3. And here's the summary from CBS All Access. While grappling with the fallout of her recent actions and what her future might hold, Burnham agrees to represent the Federation in an intense debate about the release of politically sensitive but highly valuable burn data. So we were excited, when you shared with me the name of the episode in the future called Unification 3, we immediately knew we were going to go back to Vulcan, or it would have something to do with the Vulcans.
Yes.
We had postulated that maybe they were an enemy of the Federation, which is sort of half right. Not enemy, but definitely not. They're not part of the Federation anymore.
Not on the best of terms.
They are on the planet Navarre now, not Vulcan, not called Vulcan anymore, and they have a president, Tarina. So yeah, what are your overall thoughts about Unification 3 first, and then we'll kind of deep dive into more specific.
Yeah. So
parts of the episode.
I loved this episode. I thought that it tied so many things together from past and present, and not only from Discovery, but from Star Trek history. It just did such a good job, tying Michael's past into their current predicament, into the, one of the things that I was very interested in before we, when we were previewing Discovery Season 3 was the current, understanding the current socio-political climate and understanding how everything was now that we are skipping like 1,000 years into the future. And this did a really great job. I really love President Tarina, actually, because she gave a different side of a different perspective on the Federation that was less than ideal, right? It was like, it's a gray area where, when she and Saru were talking about, why Vulcan or Navarre left the Federation, where basically the Federation became too big, and that the Federation started to focus on too many different things, where they were starting to basically ignore the needs of the few. I thought that was so interesting. I really liked that. I thought the actress that played her was really great too. But we can talk about it in a little bit. But overall, I just thought that it did did an awesome job pulling Spock's story back into the picture, and all those little Easter eggs, whether it was, the call out to Picard, the call out to the Quantum Lot, things like that. Obviously, the little clip from Unification 2, like all those little things, it just did such a great job. It was a lot of fan service. I totally, yes, I totally admit that this was a very fan service episode, but at the same time, it just tied so many different things together and it pushed the plot forward that I thought it was a great episode. Yeah, but what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed rewatching it today before we talked, just because it had been a while. Obviously, it's been a few episodes since then. And it would definitely be something that I would go back and watch again, just because and Kirsten Beyer did a great job of writing this episode. So I think that is also why, a veteran Star Trek writer doing service to the Vulcan / Navarre story. I love that it did, it brought in one of the founding members of the Federation. We had a lot of questions about what the Federation was like now, and we have I would say a more 3D picture of it. Because so far all we've really gotten is from the Admiral's kind of stance, the Starfleet stance on all of this, and so it was interesting to see that part of it. it was interesting to watch the dynamics between Saru and Michael now that their relationship has changed. It was interesting to see Tilly, Tilly's interactions with the characters in this episode as well.
Yeah.
A lot
I
of
like that scene between Tilly and Michael where Tilly was like, yeah, you left me, you put me in a really bad place.
Yeah.
And I feel season 1, Tilly wouldn't have even brought it up. And I think it's really great that we've seen this evolution of her character where she legit is like, you know, she's willing to basically talk about grievances, you know, that we wouldn't have seen that a few years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wrote that down as one of my favorite parts of the episode. But there are a lot of great little scenes in this episode. It's just so well written. And I think it had to have been written by Kirsten because it's such a complex episode and she's such a great writer and has such a great history with Star Trek. I feel like a lot of the writers on the show are a lot newer to Star Trek, and you know, Erica and Bowie are two rising stars in that. They've written some great episodes, but I'm glad that this one came from her, and I think that it was just a lot of great little scenes between characters here, a lot, and the camera work. And I forget who directed this episode, but a lot of great direction, a lot of great shots of characters and at different scenes. So I just felt like it was a really well layered episode, moves the story forward in a lot of different things, answers some questions that we had kind of forgot about, like where's Michael's mom?
Right. I did not expect that.
Yeah. No, I didn't either. A lot of Easter eggs, like you said. So just a really great episode. I really enjoyed this, and I think the way that it wraps up, certainly the Cal and Ket, the way that wraps up is really good. Another powerful speech from Burnham in that, but a lot of great acting, like the conversations between characters was well written. And so I mean, if anybody, the actors did a wonderful job with this, but honestly the material was A+ material, and so this is definitely one of the best episodes of the season, I think, and one that I enjoyed the most. But let's dig into it a little bit more and kind of talk a little bit about what are some of our favorite parts of this. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good.
For me, like you brought up, and just to I want to dig deeper into this, just the whole conversation with Tilly and Michael as she kind of walks in, you see a very humbled Michael, and you actually see a very remorseful Michael, and then and on the other side of that table, you see a very strong, determined, mature Tilly that just lays it out and basically says it should have been my choice, not yours.
Right.
And honestly, like that is probably one of the best examples of how friendships should be. If you want a template for how friends should treat one another and talk to one another, this would be it between Tilly and Burnham. And they can have this. Not only is it well written by Kirsten, but I think they can have it because they've earned it, right? We've followed these two characters through 2.5 seasons. They've really built up this relationship, and I think it's a huge payoff. And it actually watching this again, it made me feel better about the next scene, which was when Tilly met Saru. And Saru Captain Saru basically offers her the first officership, and as a temporary.
Oh yeah, I forgot that happened in this episode.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it happened at. I'm pretty sure it happened after this conversation with Tilly and Michael. So I feel like that's almost, now looking at it through a little bit it's been several weeks since this episode aired. I just feel like, wow, this actually proves why Saru offered her this promotion. And so I felt really good about that. And so I think that, again, the Mary Wiseman is phenomenal in this episode.
So good. She is like such a star, honestly. And she frequently has these like really quiet conversations that I think, like they're just really good character development conversations and moments that she just sells so well. And I feel that we talk about a lot of these Tilly scenes, and I think we frequently forget how much of it is just Mary Wiseman selling it. Because I don't know what it is, like she's just like so genuine in the way that she performs in the role, and she just has, she just does both the silly funny, but then also just the heartfelt and the heartfelt and genuine moments so well and so naturally that you just forget that this is like just she's just selling it. This is her acting that is making this scene happen. And yeah, the scene was just so great, and a lot of it is just really on Mary Wiseman's part. And obviously, like you're saying, their dynamic is they really have built this friendship, I think, both like in real life as well as on set, that we really see that come through in moments like these.
Yeah, definitely. And she is such a great actress, and it's a she does a great job, and it gets even better later on this season, in watching Terra Firma. So you get to see all of these sides to Tilly, to Mary Wiseman, to Captain Killy, like just all of these great. She's so versatile. She plays, each moment of her acting is special. It's unique. It's just beautiful. And I have to say that, as much as I love Michael Burnham, as much as I like Michelle, as much as I love Michelle Yeoh, I'm actually sort of starting a little bit of a crush on Mary Wiseman. And I think actually she might be the funnest person to meet at a Star Trek convention.
The thing about, Philippa and Michael is that they have these soapbox moments, right? Like they have these like diatribes sometimes, but Tilly doesn't really have those moments. A lot of her moments are just like these like conversations. So I think it's actually easier for you to have the soliloquy and for you to like, have this like really meaty dialogue to work with. That's just you talking for 3 or 5 minutes versus, oftentimes in Tilly's situation, she does not have moments like that. It's just like she is able to sell the conversation just through her tone, her facial language, her body language, things like that. She just does it so well. I think that's the thing that Mary Wiseman does so well. Even, she just works really well with the material that she's given. And that's why she's such a star.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I'm actually a little worried because I'm thinking about how quiet the crew has been filming season 4. And I don't think that, we've heard a lot from Mary Wiseman. Obviously, Michael, Sonequa Martin Green, and Doug Jones have both kind of reported for duty and shared on their Instagrams that they're back. But, the rest of the cast really has been quite quiet. And so
I didn't even tracking that.
I'm not really actively tracking, but just thinking about what's kind of popped into my feed over the last several weeks. It's very possible, given all that's happened over the last 2 months, that I might have missed it. But I've seen Emily Coots, who's also phenomenal in the next episode, in the next couple of episodes, actually.
Who's Emily Coots?
Detmer.
Okay.
So
who's that?
She's been posting. Actually, a lot of them have just been posting about season 3. So
Okay.
but anyway, yeah. So we're both big fan crush. We both have crushes on Mary Wiseman. But also just a quick throwback to or something else, a little Easter egg in this scene with Michael and Tilly is the mention of the USS Yelchin, which I thought was really
right. I didn't even notice
nice...
that on my first watch, and then I was on my rewatch. I was like, oh yes.
I missed it the first time too. I think I heard someone mention it. And so, yeah, I thought that was a really nice callback and call out to Anton Yelchin, who obviously passed away after filming Star Trek Beyond. So,
yeah,
which is really sad. So what scene comes up next that's kind of sticks out for you after that? You know, obviously we have the scene with Saru and Tilly, which is fine. You know, it's there. It's interesting.
Well, I think for me, it's definitely President Tarina. I thought that I don't know who the actress was that played her, but she did a great job. She just had presence, you know, she had gravitas. You can believe that she was literally the president of this planet. And she, even though she was, you know, she's just a guest actress, she just brought so much to that role. And you really saw her as a three-dimensional character. You could tell that, you know, like Michael put her in a bad spot. She wasn't pleased about it. At the same time, you know, she was able to give us this background on why Vulcan / Navarre left the Federation. And you could see how Saru and Michael's, you know, how their presence kind of caused her to change her mind and caused her to, you can see her, like you can see like the wheels turning in her head. And she didn't even have to say everything and anything, right? You know? So I just thought the actress did a great job in the role, where even though, you know, again, she's just on this for one episode, she really was able to flesh out this character. And I love the background and, you know, the whole scene where Tarina was talking to Saru and, you know, she was basically like, yeah, the Federation basically ignored the needs of the few in favor of the many. And then Saru was like, wait, isn't one of your maxims like, what is it? The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or whatever. And then she was like, well, you know, we've had a chance to kind of reevaluate, you know, like idioms and maxims that we used to hold on to. And like, I thought that was so interesting. And that, again, that different perspective of how the Federation, and it makes sense, like if the Federation got too big, you know, that they started to just ignore, especially these, you know, these key planets that started the Federation, you know, where Earth and Vulcan both basically are like, bye, see you later. You know, obviously the Federation has a lot to, you know, there's a lot that needs to be recovered. It's, you know, if they, even like these core planets have decided that it was time to go, you know. So I thought that all the scenes with Tarina were great.
So Tarina was played by Tara Rosling, and I agree with you. She did an awesome job. She had a lot of gravitas, like you said. So throughout the whole episode, and there was obviously this interesting dynamic between her and Saru. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are taking that as romantic interest.
What? I have not.
Yeah, I heard that. I don't know about that, but I thought there was some very mutual liking of one another. That
it seemed just like respect, and they seem to like each other.
Yeah. So great. So then we get the arrival of the quorum, and you know, one of our questions that you and I talked about offline is, why are they still using the transporter room? Like, everybody has personal transporter rooms now, but whatever. So we see them come aboard. She basically tells Michael to be honest, and then, drops that the Quat Malat will be kind of adjudicating this whole process. And, and lo and behold, so one, you hear that name and you're like, Picard,
a
like you get
lot
all
of
excited,
Picard
like,
callbacks.
yeah. So
Picard
some
callbacks,
some great Picard callouts there. And suddenly this figure arrives and it
It
happens
is
to be,
dramatically revealed.
yes, right?
The
Like
veil.
who travels with the veil down, but I think even her mom is a bit dramatic and did this, and so it's did it on purpose. And so we are reunited with Gabrielle Burnham, who Michael has searched for on the side, as well as picking up burn data and trying to figure out what's happened in this year that she was all by herself with Book. She was also looking for her mom, and here we are. Her mom is a Quat Malat. So very interesting development there. A nice reunion, right?
I did not expect that.
No,
I was like out of left field. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, huge props to Kirsten Bayer for this episode. Kirsten Bayer, sorry. Just huge props. So that we have that in their conversation, and it's just great because she really digs into Michael and realizes what's kind of going on with Michael, right? So she can see that Michael is ill at ease, kind of makes a lot of assumptions, some of which seem a logical jump, but she kind of like assumes she understood what Michael's been through the last year, and suddenly pieces it all together. And then we get into the whole Takal Inket ritual, which was fascinating, to coin a term that was used. Although we did skip over we did mention it earlier on, but the whole scene where Michael goes back to her quarters and looks up Ambassador Spock and sees that scene, and it's wow, just to hear Leonard
I was like,
Nimoy's
oh my God.
voice.
I felt something. Like
Did you?
Yeah. I was
Your
like,
heart grew in size three sizes when you heard Spock's voice.
That was great.
That was.
It's so good.
Yeah, really great. And obviously, one of the things about this episode too is Michael in Books kind of talks, and when they were in bed after they made love, there was this whole conversation about Michael's messianic complex and about her brother later on, and all these overachievers. So just kind of funny little quips that I liked about that Book made, but also very very on the spot, on the point. Made the point about Burnham's character, and she does kind of have this need to and her mom even says her need to insinuate herself into these grand things, including figuring out the burn and trying to restore the Federation, which it seems like almost like to coin a phrase, a God-given like that sort of level of mission that she's been given, that she just decides she has to do these big huge things. Like it's up to her to we have to restore the Federation, but really what she's basically saying is I have to restore the Federation. And
well, do you think that there's truth to what Gabrielle was saying during the conquête, where she was obviously provoking Michael to tell the truth, but she also said when she was doing that, she also said that due to Michael being abandoned and orphaned, that she has basically this hole that she needs to fill, and that to do that, that's why she insinuates herself into these situations and takes on these responsibilities, because there is this emotional hole. Like, I don't know. That wasn't resolved. Like, they didn't really say if that's true or false. I do think there might be a tinge of truth to that. But I don't know if it's like absolutely true, or
Yeah,
she
I
was
don't know
kind of just
either.
provoking Michael to,
Right.
just get on with it.
I was just thinking, I wish I had a lifeline to someone who was a Star Trek fan and a psychologist and could, kind of comment on that, but we don't. But it would be really interesting to see some, have a psychologist who is a fan of Star Trek kind of say, you know what, this is actually kind of accurate, or no, most people who have this kind of loss early on life don't really kind of go to the extremes that Burnham has. So I don't really know, but I think to some extent it was provoking. And in fact that, this whole idea of absolute candor coming back into, we only got a small taste of it in Picard. And so yeah, it's just I think it's partly provoking, but again, the dialogue in these scenes is just so well written.
Well, I was like legit uncomfortable like during some of these scenes, because you would think that Gabrielle would kind of help Burnham, but she instead kind of threw Burnham under the Michael rather under the bus, to kind of get her to just open up. And
that's the cool. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I mean, to Michael's point later, she was like, "Oh, you picked a great time to like give parenting advice." I don't know if she needs to do that right, basically in court. I mean, I get it, but at the same time, I don't know. I mean, I was legit uncomfortable. I was like, "This is awkward." Like, like you're supposed to be her advocate, and you're like giving her life lessons right now, or trying to get her to open up right this moment. But I mean, ultimately, it got Michael to where she needed to be, in order to get the spirit data, or not the spirit data. Oh my God, get the SB19 data or whatever.
Right. Yeah. I think it's the Quat Malat training, and it's just the way of life, this life of absolute candor. So I think that was her purpose, and I think
I don't know, but I get it. But I don't know if she needed to do it like right in court. It's like, oh, you're like, you're basically like, it's basically your lawyer being like, basically throwing you under the bus.
Yeah, but it's also awkward. So, Gabrielle had the role of both being the advocate for Michael, but also kind of the advocate for the ceremony itself. Right, so Tarina does say that the Quat Malat now are required for all discussions that kind of these kind of discussions, not only the scientific ones, but I would imagine they are inserted politically, discussions and things like that. So I think that is what the Quat Malat do. So she straddles the line between being the advocate for Michael, but also being the advocate for the whole courtroom drama type.
Yeah,
she's sort of the judge. She's playing both the advocate for Michael and the judge of the whole thing. So it's an interesting balance, and I think that everything that we know, whether you've read any of the Picard, if you've read the Picard novel, where you get a lot more of this, or or even what little we do get from the Picard series itself, this absolute candor is just, there's no bullshit allowed. And I think it was perfectly done. I mean, it was really, I think it was meant to be uncomfortable.
Yeah,
but
it was effective. Don't get me wrong. I was just like, this is a little uncomfortable.
I would have liked some shots of like the Vulcan, the main Vulcan, like maybe doing an eye, like a Spock eye raise, or even a reaction shot from one of the other two Romulan people on this quorum. But yeah, I it was uncomfortable, and I was okay with it, because I kind of saw what she was trying to do, and all honestly, like, Michael likes the hard way. Like, Michael, I think breaking down Michael was part of the process, like part of the reason why she was there. She had kind of got stuck in her head. She didn't feel like she fit in anymore.
Yeah.
all of these things. And, before, at the beginning of the episode, she thought she was going to leave.
Right.
And at the end, she's like, no, I'm staying. So it's, it's definitely a transformative episode. And I think that, Gabrielle has a lot to do with that. And Michael takes the lesson in the middle of this courtroom and immediately applies it and basically sees what this is all causing, the dissension in the ranks, essentially, and basically calls it off and says, I don't want your data. I'll trust you, and we'll share the data with you first, which wins obviously the heart of Tarina by that. So I think one of the things I love about Michael is she learns the hard way, but then she applies it. She doesn't F up so much that, and then she got a little bit down afterwards, but, in the end, in reality, she took action on it right away and realized that what her actions were doing were going to tear apart her brother's lifetime of work. So I thought that was but I really enjoyed this like courtroom drama, because it was watching these evolved Vulcans / Romulans. I don't, they're still kind of called Vulcans and Romulans, interestingly enough, even though they renamed the planet. So Navarians, I guess, would be, one way to refer to them now, but they don't really do that. There's still this division between the two factions. But so I thought it was a really powerful scene, and again, Kristen Beyer did a wonderful job with that. And then we see Michael get the data from her mom in that whole scene, and then her mom saying, no, I'm leaving. And then we get to go back to the Discovery crew, which is actually also just a great scene after great scene. Like, honestly, like, this episode really was rocking on all levels. So
are you talking about like the Tilly scene?
We go from Michael's scene to Tilly's scene, and she walks into the engineering deck, and all of the bridge crew are there with Stamets. And what a powerful moment that was. I thought that was actually even more emotional for me. I think that was more powerful for me.
Oh, really? I thought it was kind of cheesy.
No, I thought, wow. I did not think it was cheesy at all. I thought it was really powerful. I thought, really if you ever wanted to know what your friends thought of you, that was the moment. And they all were just encouraging. And this bridge crew is just awesome. I mean, I really love that we're starting to get to see more of them. And I hope that by kind of, and I've said this before, as we kind of slough off some of the extra characters that we've brought along as tag-alongs, like last week we got rid of, or 2 weeks ago, we got rid of Commander Non. In a couple of weeks, we're saying goodbye to Giorgio. We're getting down to the point where we're going to start seeing, hopefully, some more focus on these bridge crew. So it's just great to see all of them there and affirming Tilly's decision, and the fact that Stamets did this, it kind of engineered this whole thing, was really great. So I thought that was a really powerful scene, and humorous too, and just everything about that scene was really great. I mean, obviously Tilly did a great job, but it was great to see all those people supporting her. And so that's sort of where we leave off, right? Is we've got the data, and here we go. We've got the data. We visited Navarre, and Tilly's the new first officer. Michael's the chief science officer. We found her mom. We've met the Vulcans and Romulans of Navarre. I mean, there's just a lot in there.
And going back to what you were saying, I am really happy with how this episode kind of wrapped up Michael's mini journey of uncertainty, where she was kind of just like not sure, wavering, things like that. I'm glad that this episode found kind of like a very natural feeling resolution to that. And she has recommitted herself to serving on the Discovery and to serving Starfleet. I thought that it felt organic, and it was just like, thank God, because it was like, I hate it when people are kind of just like wishy-washy, not sure what to do, and I find it kind of annoying. So when she finally kind of found resolution, I was like, thank God. So
yeah, and I think it's a timely occurrence for that, because I feel like now we're switching gears, and now someone else is going to have a little bit of uncertainty when we discover, I think, in a few weeks, that Kelpians are on this ship, and that sort of changes Saru a lot. His decisions kind of start to be questionable a little bit. So and there's been some interesting speculation. I'm not going to share it here because I don't want to. It's not my theory, but someone has mentioned that maybe Saru might not be the captain by the end of the season. So
it's possible. I mean, like,
who knows?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I know we're not talking about Terra Firma yet, but in Terra Firma Part 2, I was like, oh my God, because Giorgio was saying to Michael that her place is in the captain's chair. I was like, oh my God, so this is not resolved yet, because I thought we're done, and I was like, I guess not. I guess we're gonna go back to that at some point or other. It's still up in the air. I mean, as long as Saru doesn't leave the show, he cannot leave the show. I'm fine.
Well, and that's what I said earlier, right? That he's reported for duty for season 4, so we already know that he and Michael are there. So it's not.
Yeah, as long as he stays around, it's fine.
Yeah,
Doug Jones is also amazing. We don't say enough about Doug Jones, but Doug Jones also kills it.
Yeah, he really did. I mean, and I think we didn't really emphasize it too much, but Doug Jones did a great job with Tarina, the scenes with Tarina. So, and I think he also communicates this unease between him and Burnham really well too.
Yeah.
I don't always agree with what Saru does, but you sort of get pieces of that Saru that we saw in an earlier series where Jason Isaacs was gone, and he kind of started comparing himself, told the computer to run an analysis on him, comparing him to the other famous captains of the 22nd century. So you kind of get this. So you see a lot of nuances, and we're going to see more, because obviously he's kind of undecided and about sharing this information with the Admiral, and we see.
I know. I thought that was interesting, but we can get into it later.
So maybe we'll try to focus a little bit more on Doug Jones, but obviously, this was a Tilly heavy, Michael heavy episode.
Yeah.
So that was great. I mean, that's all I have on Unification 3. Any other final thoughts?
No, I think we covered. I'm looking through my notes to see if there's anything else, but I am pretty sure that we covered everything that stood out to me.
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge deep dive on that. And,
there was a lot to talk about. So,
and now we're gonna switch gears completely and not talk about Star Trek for the rest of this episode as we talk about Off Topic.
Yeah.
So it's been a while, and Off Topic is sort of for those listeners who might not remember or new to the podcast.
Because it's so long.
It's been so long, but Off Topic is where we talk about what else we've been consuming, non-Star Trek related. So we shared what we were Star Trekking last episode. This episode, we're doing a little bit of, it's going to be a lot, because we have been watching a lot of off-topic shows. So why don't you start and pick one of the shows that you tell? Let's do a little bit of tennis here and do some back and forth on what we've been watching rather than kind of listing it out, because we would,
Okay,
you know,
there's so much. Yeah.
there's so much, but
Okay,
let's start with
I'll
you.
start with one. And I would try to not go too crazy because I think we can go into off topic for like 3 hours since there's so much. So I'll keep it I'll try to keep it high level. So the first thing I talked about like 4 episodes ago, and we finally watched it because it's been that long. Is The Crown. So so The Crown came out. I watched all 10 episodes. Did you guys watch?
Dennis watched the whole 10 episodes, so I watched the first couple, and then he was watching the last couple, and I watched the last couple.
Okay.
So I missed the in between episodes. So maybe at some point I'll go back and watch the in between. But go ahead.
This season was so good. It was so good. And I think that I mean, like, there's already been, so much dialogue about The Crown since it came out, like, basically a month ago. So I don't think I need to go too in depth here. But I think that by focusing the season so much on Diana and Thatcher and kind of having the season's story, because sometimes The Crown can be a little bit like all over the place because they're trying to cover a lot of characters, a lot of different like moments in time in stories. It's so good, but sometimes it's like they're just trying to cover a lot of bases. But here you still have a little bit of that in this season, but like you basically have Diana and Thatcher as kind of the emotional and narrative anchors for the season, where a lot of things are going on involve one or both of them somehow, that it helped to ground the season, like to ground the storytelling, the narrative storytelling, and the emotional aspects of the season. It was so good. I loved it. I mean, some people are saying like how accurate it is, like historically. That is fine, but I just thought that as a piece of art, like, in terms of just television, it was just so well done. And I don't remember the name of the actress, unfortunately, who plays Diana, but she is just so good. She like plays all the different ranges really well, from just like naive, like 15-year-old or whatever, or no, she's like not 14, she's like 17 or something when we first meet her. To how by the end of the season, she's like, basically stuck in this marriage, this loveless marriage. And, she is just like, she plays all layers so well. I don't know. And she's like fresh out of like acting school. Like, I'm like, this girl is amazing. She's so good. And then obviously Jillian Anderson, I mean, like, whatever. She's like a veteran, so she's fine. She does her job well. It was funny. I was reading an interview with Jillian Anderson because, she and Peter Morgan broke up just, I think, a day ago. They broke up. Peter Morgan being the executive producer, writer, director, whatever, she was basically like, I'm not going to comment on the script as long as you don't comment on my acting. Just let me do my thing, and I won't say anything about the script or whatever. So I thought that, but she's so good that she doesn't need to be critiqued. She has decided to bring to life her character the way that she sees fit. And she's like, you either trust me with it or just, don't hire me. But it was so good. The season was so good. And there was just like, it hit just so many emotional beats. And one of the things that I was anticipating about the season that was very exciting was this clash between, Elizabeth and Thatcher, and how these two really strong women in very different positions, how they would deal with each other. And that was great. And they definitely explored that in one of the episodes that was about like apartheid or something. And I don't know if you watched that one, but it was so good. So good. You have to like watch it all. But yes. So that's what I wanted to just touch on, The Crown season 4.
Clearly you hated it. So
clearly.
Yeah. No, I saw some of the episodes and they were really good. And Gillian Anderson's performance as Thatcher is phenomenal. I would totally agree. I think one of the things that stood out because I did see the beginning and the end, is the interview they had after Thatcher left, and how there was a mutual respect and understanding there, which I thought was really powerful. But yeah, Gillian Anderson kills it. Yeah, obviously there's a lot of commentary on Charles for this season,
Right. Yes.
and yeah, and what episodes I did watch, I was not impressed with Charles as a human being, but
then it was like, but then you're like, wait, is this real? Did that really happen? Because that interview where they were engaged, and then a reporter was like, oh yeah, like, what's it like to be in love? And then Charles was basically like, love, whatever that means, or something like that. And that was legit something he said during a live interview. And I'm like, oh my God, can you at least pretend? Like, I get it, but like, she's right there. Goodness.
Yeah, I think the thing that stood out for me from what I did watch of the season was just how much everyone advised him to leave Camilla behind, and he just couldn't.
Right.
And so it's sort of a tragic love story in that regard, but unfortunately that tragedy, obviously they're together now. And in fact, I just saw an article, a headline in Apple News, I think it was, that said that Williams and Megan's kids, not Megan, William and I can't think of her name. Kate. Yeah, William and Kate's kids don't call her grandma. So, which I thought was interesting. I don't know how true that is, but so yeah, definitely an interesting portrayal, kind of a tragic portrayal of him during this time anyway, and
yeah,
obviously probably in the next season as well. I don't know what they're covering in the next season, but I mean, eventually they'll get to that tragedy of Diana dying in the tunnel. That's definitely
going to be next season, because each season is basically like a decade, so that's definitely going to be in the 90s.
So yeah, well, so we have The Crown. So yes. I'll jump in here, and obviously we just watched it and we talked a little bit about it, but The Mandalorian was
so good.
Crazy good.
So good.
I mean, such a great season overall. And in fact, amazing. I feel like I read somewhere or saw somewhere that there is something coming next Friday on Christmas Day as well, but I don't know what that is. I don't know. I vaguely remember seeing something that there might be a bonus episode or something, which would be great, because leaving us where they did was like, what's next?
It's so good though.
It was a great season, and obviously a ton of accolades to Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau for the work they've done in that show.
Yeah.
Did not expect the ending of the final episode, which just aired yesterday.
Absolutely not. And I mean, like, I'm not like a hater of the sequel trilogy. A lot of people hated it. I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was amazing. I thought it was fine. I thought it was like fine.
It was fine. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
It was fine. I just feel that there was like a lot of potential lost, where we just didn't see a lot of what could have been. And I am one of the people that feel that, we didn't really get to see Luke, right after Return of the Jedi. Like, the time between basically Return of the Jedi and
The Force Awakens.
Like, that's like so many years that we just haven't seen. Yeah. And we basically went from Luke starting his journey as a Jedi to him becoming this bitter man who has just, he's like
withdrawn from the Force.
Yeah, he's ostracized himself from society.
Yeah.
And I just felt that there was so much lost opportunity there to explore that.
Yeah.
And I feel that this is now what The Mandalorian has started to explore is basically the solve to that. And that's what's exciting, because there's just so much history to unearth there. where we can kind of see Luke in his prime, and we can see the hopeful Luke and the Luke that is the teacher, not the student. I think that there's so much potential still on Earth that it's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm gonna miss Grogu though. I mean, honestly,
I
like
know.
that relationship, that relationship between Jin Darin and Grogu, you just saw it escalate this season so much to the point where all Jin,
I think it's Jin.
Jin said, or all that Jin did was search for someone to hand off the kid to, and in the end he got what he wanted, but it's not actually what he wanted because he realized there was such a close relationship to Grogu. And so it's and it's also interesting, like looking back at this series, that that Ahsoka really didn't know of Luke Skywalker or didn't mention him specifically. So there's this sort of disconnect a little bit. I mean, it does kind of speak to a enormous galaxy, which this is happening in. Really enormous galaxy. Also, if you kind of place things chronologically, when you see Ahsoka, she's just probably getting back from her trip with Sabine into the outer reaches to try to find
I didn't really
Ezra.
ever watch the Clone Wars.
Okay. So so this is from Rebels, actually.
Okay. No wonder I really watched Rebels. I watched like season 1 of Clone Wars, and then that was it.
Oh, such good stuff. I mean, that's really where Dave Filoni kind of came to life, and Rebels was another kind of throw on top of that. Took us deeper. But so yeah, just an incredible final episode, so Star Warsy, so everything you kind of hoped for. When you see that X-wing fly into Moff Gideon's ship, you're like, you pause and you think, well, is that the one starfighter that you saw earlier?
Yeah, I was like, who is this?
In the back of your mind.
I knew it was gonna be a Jedi. I knew it was gonna be a Jedi, but I was like, who's it gonna be? And then you start to see this Jedi, and you see like he has one glove on. I'm like,
yes,
wait.
That was what I was gonna say. Like you notice that there's only one. You see one glove, and so you're kind of like, okay, is this really gonna be who we think it's gonna be? And you don't really, it's just you're kind of. I think as Star Wars fans, we get our hopes up, and then we've been disappointed so often. And this was the time where our hopes were high, and they went even higher with delivery. And seeing Luke as the doors on the bridge open, and seeing him walk in was just like, whoa. And I mean, the CG work bothered me a little bit.
Like when he was
distracted
talking,
me.
I was like, it was a little weird. But
it was distracting, but but it was definitely Mark Hamill acting it. So you could kind of tell that his voice wasn't the Luke of, like, they probably modulated his voice a little bit between who he is now and who he was then, but you could tell that it was a little off. But
I was okay with it.
It was fine. It was, you're sort of nitpicking here, but or I'm nitpicking, but it was just awesome. But then to leave the season, and I had heard about this after the credits scene, and so I thought, oh, we'll get an idea of what's next, right? Completely something different. Completely something different. So you're kind of left as the last scene of seeing, Jin Darin and Kara and Bo-Katan on and Moff Gideon on the bridge, and that's it. You just see this, like, it kind of, and it ends, and so we don't have any idea where this is going. I mean, they now have a Star Destroyer, or a cruiser, not a Star Destroyer, and obviously Mandalore is the thing, but you've got this whole piece where Bo-Katan doesn't actually have the sword, the
I
dark
know, that's gonna be
saber,
like,
and
yeah.
so there's this whole piece of that, which I listened to a podcast earlier today, and they had said that Sabine had given Bo-Katan the dark
Yes, I
saber
read about this.
before, so why couldn't she take it this time? Again, very interesting. I don't. Hopefully, we'll get an explanation of that at some point. But so yeah, so you kind of left, and I'm like, what are we doing now? Like, we've watched 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. We followed him and these characters, and he's now Grogu less. And so what, obviously there is this whole idea of freeing Mandalore, but so many questions. I mean, awesome ending, but you're left with what's next? What's going to happen next? So, but again, just an awesome season of The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
It was, I actually sometimes each week would get them confused and think, oh, is today Star Wars Day and tomorrow Star Trek? Or, so as a kid who grew up with Star Wars and Star Trek, this was, these past couple of months with both on TV.
So good.
Is just awesome. So so that's The Mandalorian for me and for you. But what else is on your off-topic list?
So I'm gonna condense it a little bit because I think I need to go soon. Because my mom might be like, "Where is this man?" But
understandable, and we apologize to Mom for stealing you away. But
whatever. So I have not watched The Expanse yet, so don't talk about it. Have you seen any of it?
No, I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, so we don't need to talk about that. But I'm very excited for The Expanse, which I hear the first 3 episodes is supposed to be like amazing. So I'm ready for it. I started to watch The Flight Attendant because everyone's been talking about The Flight Attendant. I've only seen 1 episode and I'm like not convinced yet. Have you seen any episodes of it?
No, I sort of want to, but I just haven't been. I've been watching other things. I'm not really. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not on board yet, but I have a friend that's been like, it's amazing, and then got renewed for season 2. So I'm like, all right, it's on the list. That will eventually, I'll go through it. The Queen's Gambit. So I know you haven't seen it yet, but you have to watch. She is amazing. She's beautiful, but she's also like a great actress, and she has so much presence. You and Dennis need to watch the show. It's so good. And I am like, people are like, because I'm recommending to people and like, but it's chess. And I'm like, I don't fucking care about chess. It is not fucking about chess. It is about this person's journey and her realizing her potential, who she is in a world that doesn't respect her because she's a woman. Like, there's all these things, but that's a very short, condensed version.
Got it.
But The Queen's Gambit, gotta watch it. And then the other thing that I have watched recently is Alice in Borderland. I don't know if you've heard about this. So this is actually, it's a Netflix live action series. I watched all 8 episodes in 2 days. I didn't talk to you about this, but it's based on a manga. And I'm like sometimes I'm very interested in these kind of like manga live action adaptions. The basic premise is that there's these 3 guys who they're just friends in Tokyo. And they're like, there's actually this like really cool scene in episode 1. So they're basically like in Shibuya, which is basically like the Times Square in Tokyo, like crazy amounts of people. And they're just hanging out. And then it's like this one continuous shot where you see them, like they're basically like crossing Times Square, like their version of Times Square, like hundreds of people. They go in there, they run into like this like public bathroom stall because they're like hiding from the police. And keep in mind, this is one continuous shot. So you see them, you go into the stall with them, and then everyone else just disappears. Like the lights go out, they're like, what happened? They go out and the entire area is empty. And I don't know if they like did a trick with it or if they legit like did this continuous shot, but it is so interesting. And the whole premise is that essentially, I don't know if it's your cup of tea, but essentially these three guys they're not sure if they're transported or if everyone else is transported, but they're like transported to this alternate reality where everyone needs to play games. It's like they have to play games to survive. It's like the Hunger Games. I don't know. There's also this other manga anime series called Gantz, which is very similar, where basically these people are like they're transferred to this like alternate dimension in order to survive and get through and survive another day. They need to like play these games, and they're like these like mind games. It's really interesting. I personally really enjoyed it. But yeah, I watched like all 8 episodes in 2 days. It was great. So
Gantz was one. What was the other one what was the one you talked about?
This is Alice in Borderland.
Alice in Borderland. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was trying to find it in Netflix as you were kind of. Oh, there it is. Okay.
I mean, it's worth probably like one episode. If you don't like the first episode, it's probably like not for you.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
It is violent. It is violent.
Okay.
So
all right. Good to know.
People die brutally, so I had to like just get used to it, but otherwise it was very interesting.
Okay. All right. So for me, the other things that I've been watching are kind of on the comedy side.
Okay.
So we watched obviously we watched Schitt's Creek. We're kind of on a rewatch again, just as something where we don't know if we don't know what to watch and just need something to veg out to, we pull that up. But we watched Community, but I kind of stalled Community once Danny Glover left. Donald Glover, not Danny Glover. Donald Glover left because him and Armin's relationship on the show is just phenomenal. So we did watch the show Dairy Girls because it's a British comedy, Ireland in the 90s, or Northern Ireland in the 90s.
Okay.
And about this group of friends, these girls, and then this one English guy who's a cousin of one of the girls who gets kind of comes to this area because his mom is kind of a screw up. And it's just, I mean, it's just funny and just ridiculous, and both of us laughed at it. So been watching that. Also on older British TV, I subscribed to BritBox again because actually a month ago.
Wait, what?
BritBox. BritBox. It's an app. It's a company that has a lot of British TV shows on it.
Oh my god.
So
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, so I signed up for it actually because on November 23rd was the 55th anniversary of Doctor Who. Okay. So a lot of people watched the original first episode on that anniversary. So I actually watched it, watched some Doctor Who, some classic Doctor Who on there, and then came across I thought of Red Dwarf again. And so I've been watching Red Dwarf. I'm on just finishing up series 3. There's like 12 or 13 series. But they're like 6 episodes. They're like 25 minutes of just ridiculousness. It's funny. It's just, I think I've been so stressed out with everything going on that I've needed comedy to kind of step outside. Okay, so like drama isn't really doing it for me, except for Star Trek and Star Wars. So enough drama in real life. So I've been watching a lot of comedy. I did watch one more episode of Away. So I'm up to.
It's so long.
I know. So I did watch that.
Picked up for season 2. So
it didn't. Oh, bummer. Okay. Well, now I'll have to really think of.
Now you have even less motivation
to watch it. No, that's too bad. Because I do like Josh Charles. But and last night we watched Mulan, which we actually both really enjoyed. So
I didn't mind Mulan. I actually kind of liked it when I watched it with my friends. It was more like after I started thinking about it, I was like, I guess there's some problems with it. But honestly, and I'm speaking as a Chinese person, I mean, there was like a little bit. some of the like the Phoenix, I was like, oh my God, I do not need to see the Phoenix for the 8th time. I understand the metaphor. I get it. You do not need to hammer home for me. But overall, I actually liked
Well,
it.
I think it kind of took the place of the animated
Mushu.
characters.
No
and
Mushu. I
yeah,
understand.
yeah, but I didn't mind the Phoenix all that much, really. But I
I
did
hated
enjoy.
Phoenix. It was like my friend was like, "Is this a Pokemon we need to catch?" We keep on seeing it. Like it was just like all over the place.
I just believed it was her spirit animal. That's really how I
it kind of
referred. It is
Yes,
right,
yes,
yeah.
yes,
But that's
yes.
that's why like no one else could see it. I felt like that was her her
Yes,
thing.
yes,
So
yes, yes.
but I really enjoyed it. I thought I don't remember. I probably watched Mulan this year at some point, the cartoon version.
I've
So
never seen the animated version.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
But so I definitely did watch it, and I enjoyed it. And I don't know all of the, obviously the Chinese implications of it. I thought they
Yeah.
dealt with a lot of it pretty well. I mean, it was a predominantly Asian cast.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we watched that. I think that's pretty much it. I think I've mentioned everything. I can't think of anything else. I'm sure there's more, but we're going long here, so we're gonna wrap up for time. Unless there's anything else on off topic that you can think of.
No, not off topic. I mean, the only other thing that I've started watching is Voyager, but
Oh,
that's
right.
not off
Yeah,
topic.
that's
That
not
is
off
why
topic. That
I
is
Star Trekking. But that's the other
yes.
thing that's been occupying my time. I was starting like in the middle of Voyager season 1. So
Which is just a hard watch. Fortunately, it's a shorter
actually, I don't think
season.
it's that bad. I don't think it's that bad. I actually
Okay.
like I've been watching it. I mean, like there's like things I don't like, and we can talk about it when we dive into what we've been Star Trekking. But I'm like, okay. And like, you remember like Seska, right? Like, cause
Oh
she's like
yeah,
Japanese,
yeah,
right? So now I'm all like, I'm like watching all these because I know that twist is coming because that was a huge twist.
yeah. Right.
And obviously it's season 2 cliffhanger, and I'm like watching for like the clues.
Yeah.
But
they weren't. They were the clues probably weren't too obvious or even in there because they weren't writing serialized seasons back then. Really, they were. I mean, I would love, and we'll talk about this some other time, but I would love, if they ever redid a series, Voyager would be great if they redid it in a serialized.
I agree.
Fashion.
Like one of the okay, again, we're not like going on a whole Voyager tangent. I know we talked about this before, but one of the things that you mentioned when you started to do your Voyager rewatch is how Janeway doesn't really grow much as a character. She's pretty like steady, right?
Yeah.
I feel it's been so interesting because one of the things that I feel like I'm not seeing, given them halfway through season 1, is the gravity of her decision to strand her crew in the Delta Quadrant. I feel there would be so much to mine there from a character development standpoint, and how that guilt is really a motivating factor. Like in all of her decision making. I'm not seeing that. She's like, "Where's my coffee?" She's a competent captain. She wants her coffee, but I'm just like, they didn't dig deep. There have been so many opportunities to really dig into her character, because she did make the decision because she didn't, the prime directive and everything, to destroy the caretaker's array and not get them home. And I'm like, man, they really could have. There's been so many opportunities there.
Well, and they mine that very selectively on certain episodes, and that's it. So it's not something that you
serialized.
If it were, exactly, exactly. So, well, I think that does it, and we'll catch people up next time. We'll go down and visit Deanna's office and sit and talk with her, because obviously you dropped some pretty big news at the top of the show, as did I. But it's sort of as a caveat, or as an addition for everyone to know, like, this is why we've been behind on kind of recording these episodes. That's why you're only now hearing our thoughts on Unification 3, and
I know.
we're 3 episodes more beyond that. So, but we've had a lot going on, and we are both looking forward to a trip coming up. We are going to go see the Star Trek tour
Yes.
in upstate New York. We're going to go visit the original series sets, and
Well, it's like a recreation of the sets, but apparently it's done so well that
yeah. So we're looking forward to that. We're doing that next in a week, and a
Very
weekish. Yeah. So we'll have some of that to share as well. But yeah, so we've got, there's a lot, and we'll be much better about this in 2021 as things kind of settle down, and
Will they?
I don't know.
don't know.
Probably not, but we'll talk to Deanna about more of that next time.
Yeah.
So, Johnson, how can people share their thoughts on Unification 3 or any of these off topics, or maybe even they could tell us what they're watching that are non-Star Trek related shows? So where can our listeners find us?
So everyone can email us at deepspacepride@gmail.com, and you can also reach us on Twitter and Instagram at deepspacepride. And if you reach out, we promise to do our best to respond to you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Unification 3 or anything you're watching, or just tell us what's going on in your dramatic lives, whatever it is. But we thank you all for listening and for putting up with our delayed episode recaps and things like that. But we will get back on track and have some new stuff for 2021. And we promise to cover Sanctuary and Terra Firma Part 1 and 2 in the near future, and whatever else comes after that. So we do only have 3 episodes left of Discovery.
I know.
For this season. But thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Deep Space Pride is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com, or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
Coconut